having some fun this morning. The great news, I am here. The less great news, not feeling too great. So, gonna have some fun today, gonna have some fun this morning. Gonna try to keep it upbeat and keep it happy and light. But just know if I start acting a little silly, then you know why. All right. And let me do something here and put this on focus, because otherwise I will not focus. And I'm not sure, but it feels like somebody has messed with my microphone. Let me get you guys in front of me. Let's check in live over the Adamson Square. Not a lot of action again today. Same cars as we typically have. Right over that way. So I look this way. You guys think I'm looking at the camera, but I'm actually maybe look this way to look at the camera. Maybe I should swap those around. But good morning. Welcome to the show. Glad you're here. It is the H2 show. You are here with me. We are going to have a good time. We are going to put you right here in front of me. Can you see me? Can I see you? Yes, I can see you. So I'm Jeffrey Heron, one half of the H2 show. We have big news coming up. Want to give a shout out to South Magnolia. They have some big things happening, so check that out. If you follow their Facebook page, you should. If you don't, there is an upcoming something. They were in the studio yesterday, so it's kind of an exciting piece of news coming soon. So I'll let Brent talk about that maybe at lunch today. Him and I are going to get together either lunch or this afternoon and have a long discussion and have a little fun. Today is the National Day of the Week, which is National Hemp Day. It is February 4th, National Hemp Day. And National Hemp Day is a way to celebrate the industry of hemp and its long and innovative history. Did you know hemp has been part of the human civilization for over thousands of years? The world's earliest civilizations used hemp fibers to make fabric for clothing and other materials. Even America's founding fathers drafted early documents on hemp paper. So that's pretty cool. During the last century, leaders used a Hemp for Victory campaign during World War II to encourage farmers to grow hemp for military use. Since then, hemp has been an essential material in the innovation of several industries. For example, shipping, construction, and textiles rely on hemp for numerous products. The construction industry started using hemp in place of concrete as hempcrete, since it is windproof and offers a lower carbon footprint. The industrial hemp pilot program allowed several states to grow, cultivate, and process hemp for agricultural purposes. These programs brought thousands of new jobs to an industry that had long been considered obsolete because of the Schedule I classification of hemp. So when we think about the panic that occurred, and I think we talked about this in the DARE timeframe or the DARE organization period, it was really common for people to view marijuana, LSD, and cocaine, crack cocaine, other drugs as the same, and so they did get classified as Schedule I drugs. Hemp, for example, was considered a Schedule I drug, even though in most cases hemp is just a byproduct, and I believe it's the male plant of the marijuana. Don't quote me on that. I'm sure somebody will correct me in the comments, which is totally fine, and I appreciate it if they would. The reason why hemp is such a great crop for us to grow is regenerative to the soil. It's renewable, and it can ultimately be used in numerous things. It's a wicking fabric similar to cotton, so it can be used and be a breathable fabric, but it's also very strong and sturdy. And again, it actually regenerates the ground that it's grown in, bringing nutrients back to the ground, which makes it a good rotational crop. In addition to that, it has a higher carbon consumption versus, say, a standard tree. So in a world where we're trying to control our carbon emissions, it makes for a great device for you to be able to ultimately consume more carbon and sequester that carbon into a plant, which ultimately helps lower the CO2 in the air bringing us into a better and more sustainable environment, according to most climate scientists. So with that, let's celebrate hemp today. Some other things that hemp can be used for, obviously CBD oil in some cases utilizes hemp, or I think in all cases utilizes hemp to give that. I don't understand the science exactly, but as I understand it, your brain has some cannabinoid receptors. Those cannabinoid receptors can receive the CBD oil, and that can cause, ultimately some pain relief and some other things. So I'm not a medical doctor. I can ask Brent when he's here, or do some more research. I'm sure he'd tell me he'd have to read a paper on it, or maybe he's already read a paper on it, and we can get him to talk about it one day, being it is National Hemp Day. So as we celebrate National Hemp Day, it's okay to wear hemp. It's okay to use hemp in products. It is not a dirty word. So let's make sure we treat it that way. All right, let's transition to this day in history. All right, this day in history, in 1783, the American Revolutionary War ended. Back-to-back World War champs also defeated England. In 1789, George Washington became the first U.S. president, elected by the Electoral College. In 1859, the German archaeologist Constantine von Teschendorf discovered the Codex Sinaiticus. There you go. In 1861, the Confederacy is formed in the U.S. Civil War. In 1927, the first talkie movie is released. I thought this one was prescient in that we now have a remake of this movie. In 1938, Walt Disney's Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs is released. Let's see. There was one more. Oh, yeah. In 2004, Mark Zuckerberg's Facebook is founded. The social networking service currently has over 1 billion active users. And in some cases, you all are watching this on that social network, which is Facebook, which was our first channel we launched on. We're now on YouTube. I do have some shorts out there if you guys want to check those out. With that, let's transition over to celebrity birthdays. In celebrity birthdays, we have Alice Cooper. School is not out for summer, but in some cases right now, school is out for fever. Just a little warning from me to you. Make sure your children are washing their hands. Be very cautious not to touch everything, as flu and COVID, as well as strep throat, are all very rampant in classrooms. And I think your teacher and you will appreciate not having the flu. My family is currently home with strep throat. It's been interesting, to say the least. Typically what happens with us is the kids get kind of whiny, the son gets kind of raspy, and that's how we know it's time to go get tested. So be careful, wash your hands, try to maintain good hygiene. I promise we're going to pull out of this winter season here pretty quick, and hopefully flu will have died down by then. Okay, actor Lisa Einhorn in 1952, Football Hall of Famer Lawrence Taylor. What's funny is I don't remember watching Lawrence Taylor. I don't believe he was, active during my time as a kid or when I would have been watching him play ball. But I do remember him in the NFL Blitz remake called The League, Blitz the League, that came out on Xbox and or Xbox 360. And I remember him being in all the commercials and doing just absolutely insane, crazy things during the cutscenes. So interesting. Happy birthday to Lawrence Taylor. I don't know that I would necessarily want to miss out on his birthday, as big as he is. Comedian David Brenner, actor John Schnuck, filmmaker George A. Romero of Day of the Dead and Night of the Living Dead of fame. Former U.S. Vice President Dan Quayle. I believe he was George H.W. Bush. aviator Charles Lindbergh, legendary golfer Byron Nelson, civil rights activist Rosalie Parks, and Hunter Biden, of all people. You know, it's his birthday. Everybody has a birthday. His birthday in 1970. Boxer Oscar De La Hoya, singer-songwriter Natalie Imbruglia. Okay, so let me just tell you a little something about me. And I don't know if I should be ashamed of this or not, but I'm just going to tell you. So back when I lived in Kentucky, I lived in this little town called Philpott. And they had, of course, you could dial into the radio station and request a song. And the first song I ever requested on a radio station, I thought was the coolest thing ever, was Torn by Natalie Imbruglia. Had no idea what the song was about. I still remember some of the words, but I don't remember all of them. And I definitely did not sing the lyrics correctly back then. All right, singer Gavin DeGraw. As with Gavin, I'm just trying to be what I've been trying to be lately. I don't want to be anything other than a manufacturer's son, I guess would be my statement. Comedian Hannibal Buress. He was born in 1983. He's age 41. My favorite skit by Hannibal Buress is he said, "Young Jeezy would be the worst real estate agent ever." In one of his songs, Young Jeezy says, "My house is stupid, dumb big. My room's got rooms." And Hannibal's famous line was, "Jeezy, those aren't rooms in your other rooms. Jeezy, those are closets. What's the next thing you're going to tell me? My sinks are bathtubs too, like mini bathtubs? What is this?" So anyway, he does it better. A little known fact about Hannibal, he actually owns a couple of different apartments inside the same building in Chicago, and then VRBOs those properties out to make money while he's on tour. So he's kind of a frugal guy and had a very interesting take on, how to make money on real estate in the current environment. Now, I think VRBO is kind of fallen out of fashion, as has Airbnb, as the fees have kind of gotten closer to what it's like to stay at a hotel and cleaning fees and all the little rules and such. But anyway, that was a way to make money early on, and I think that was probably pre-pandemic as well. All right, so let's transition to some national news. I'm not liking my lighting on this one today, but I will use it because it does let me get a little more personal with you, and it's got a little better, feel to it from here. So just to change things up, we had yesterday a huge situation where the stock market was felt like it was dropping like a rock, and we were all concerned about it. And everybody was worried because Trump had announced tariffs that were going to go into effect on Tuesday. Well, it is Tuesday, and those tariffs on at least Canada and Mexico have been stalled, paused, if you will. Both the Canadians and the Mexican presidents agreed to some concessions, and Trump also agreed to some concessions. So it's interesting how this plays out, but these seem to be. I don't think he's against tariffs because obviously he's put them on before. He did it with China. It was a really big deal. There was a lot of work that had to be done in order to set that up for businesses to have continuing operations and not be so concerned about how expensive it was going to be. However, and that is a detriment to the economy, by the way, when you do things like that for a period of time, a small period of time. However, it seems like it was a negotiating tactic in this case, and now we've made some agreements. So one of the agreements was that the Mexican president agreed to post 10,000 soldiers, for lack of a better term, service members from their military on the border in order to help control the flow of fentanyl into the United States. In exchange for that, the U.S. obviously delayed the tariffs, and the counter tariffs were delayed as well. But the U.S. has also agreed to try and prevent the flow of guns back the other way for the cartels. So, again, both sides got something out of that. I think it's a win. And we, saw that kind of reflected in the stock market, that it kind of rose back up to sort of normal levels. Although, as we speak, let me just pull it up here. It looks like it's still down slightly, so the sentiment probably is that these are tentative agreements and they want to see what plays out. That said, over the last week, we look at the S&P, whereas it was down like 1.3%, now it's only down a half a point. So when we look at these things, we have to look at them in context. So early in the day, Mexico agreed to this. Late in the day, Canada came back to the table as well with some concessions about how they were going to station people on the border there to prevent the flow of fentanyl, which I think is one of the major things that concerns all citizens. Is, hey, we don't want drugs in anybody's country, right? Like, certain drugs are bad, and when they're not controlled, like fentanyl, which, as Miles and us talked about, can be a one and done thing. If you get exposed to fentanyl and you are unprepared, or even if you are prepared, it can be a first time fatality. And that's unfortunate and something we do need to control for. So, with that, good job on both sides. And I think, again, giving some longevity, giving some breathing room, and keeping a perspective as these things happen is very important, because just because the news reports things immediately does not mean we have to digest and make a decision on those things immediately. In fact, it's probably immature and incorrect for us to make knee-jerk decisions just because of how we feel about a particular person as well. Let the facts play out and let's see what happens. In other news in the federal government, there's ongoing debate happening about the USAID organization, and that sounds like it's the U.S. aid, as in how we pay out aid to other countries. I think they do that intentionally. Yeah, it is not the U.S. aid organization as we give aid. It's the United States Agency on International. I forget the international. I forget the D. But it is not just about how we give out aid in to, say, various countries for AIDS and other diseases, or I think there was one where there's an outbreak in Africa of Ebola that aid would be given to. So there's a lot going on there, and I have not digested all of it myself. So I think it's important that we hold off and we wait and withhold judgment there. And I'm not sure why I'm getting beeps and sounds, and I apologize if y'all are hearing those. Arian, yes, it's going to take some time for all this to smooth out. I think most Trump supporters understand. I know several people who have died from fentanyl. Something has to be done. Totally agree, Arian. I think, while I wouldn't necessarily take a side here at the H2 show on behalf of anyone, what I will say is that it is very clear we all disagree with the fentanyl being transported here. I would also say, if there's any evidence and truth to what the Mexican president said about guns going the other way, then I can totally understand the need to control that flow as well. So glad that they could come to an agreement, glad that cooler heads have prevailed, and I hope that there continue to be adults in the room in these conversations. So speaking of that, there's another one we must talk about. So yesterday, there was a national push for a protest around immigration. So I know that we posted a video of a local protest that was going on. It was a peaceful protest. It appeared to be organized well among with the local law enforcement, so as to not create any disruptions or any issues there. Which is all we can ask, right? The American ideal is that we're able to speak our mind, we're able to be open, we're able to have the freedom of thought and the freedom of expression and the freedom of speech, which can be used via a protest. And as long as those things are organized, they're not dangerous to anyone, and they remain peaceful and civil, I think they should be celebrated as an opportunity for people's voices to be heard. In this case, it was very clear that there is a want for unity among those that are immigrants, whether they be here unlawfully or they be here lawfully, as seen through the eyes of the law. And the truth is, I think that these things should be handled with compassion, with care, and with love. I don't believe that it's my place to take a side in this case. Again, back to the conversation. Nobody wants violent criminals in their community. We can all understand that, whether those be U.S. citizens or non U.S. citizens. Um, but we can also say that we've all been touched by immigrants, right? So we don't want to see people treated unfairly or poorly, or without compassion, as as things have, there's obligations that have to be fulfilled. If somebody is in law enforcement or in ICE and they have a legal obligation to perform their job duties, they should do those things to the best of their ability with compassion and care for the people, because they are people. As I've said before, here at the H2 show, we love everybody. There is no, we're not going to show an uncompassionate voice. Our goal here is to educate, to bring some funny stories to you, and to bring some ideas to you. But it's also to keep you informed of what's going on in the world. And I wrote this down because I thought it was very important that, I tell you from my heart, but I wanted to make sure that I shaped my words appropriately before I said it. So give me one moment. Okay. So many people in Carrollton joined in the nationwide protest against the mass deportations that are happening. Please remember that while we can disagree on policies, laws, and procedures, all conversations, regardless of how tough the subject matter, should be had with grace, compassion, and kindness. Let's remember to love our neighbors and pray for our leaders. No matter how much we disagree with our leaders, they are there, and we should want what's best for them and for our country and for our fellow citizens and our fellow people. We end this show, as we always do, with the scripture of the day. Believe it or not, we love you, whether you believe or you don't. And we hope you can find some some truth in the message from the verse of the day. We do this every day because I think it's important that we sow good seeds into the world, because reaping and sowing are universal things. So let's read, and I think this is a very appropriate one today. From 1 Peter 3:9, King James Version: not rendering evil for evil or railing for railing, but contrariwise blessing, knowing that ye are unto called, that ye should inherit a blessing. So what does that say? Essentially, let's not repay evil with other evil. So when you're making comments here online, when you're having conversations with your friends, there's going to be a want to be sometimes petty or bombastic, or say something that, you may regret. And so my suggestion to you would be to think before you speak, and to respond in kindness and in love. Try to understand the other person and be empathetic to the situation they may be in. I understand that there are views varied and wide, and nobody wants to offend or hurt anyone's feelings, but they also want to be heard and want their side of the story to be heard. So please feel free to speak with truth and with facts, but also try to temper your words with grace. All right. So let's close. Give me 1 second. I'm gonna swap scenes so y'all can see me. So what is our message every day? Our message is that you woke up today, your feet are on the ground. That means you got another day breathing and another opportunity to do great things. You can do hard things. You should do hard things, because that's how you're built. You're built to do hard things, challenge yourself, grow, and be better tomorrow and the next day and the next day. Look around you, love others, but continue to grow in who you are and who you can be. And know that we love you here at the H2 Show. We want you to have the best year you've ever had. We want to continue to give you these insights and these thoughts, and just go out, have the best day ever, have the best week ever.
At the end of the day, the day